Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Joanna Butler, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Warrant Officer Craig Wiggins. We are honoured to acknowledge the Honourable Matt Keogh, Minister for Veterans Affairs and Minister for Defence Personnel, accompanied by Miss Alison Frame, Secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs. We also warmly welcome the delegation representing Citadel Technology. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial, cadets on behalf of 8 Wing Australian Air Force cadets visiting from Darwin, Northern Territory, and students on behalf of St Kieran's School visiting from Brighton, Queensland. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is got by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Students, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private William Bourne. William Bourne was born on the 13th of February 1921, the son of William and Sarah Vaughan Bourne. He grew up in Poowong, a small dairy farming town in South Gippsland, Victoria, and went on to work as a dairy farmer. He also spent some time with the part-time militia and was a member of the training battalion before enlisting in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force on the 11th of March 1941. 20-year-old Private Bourne began training and on the 9th of September was promoted to acting corporal. In late December, he travelled to Puckapunyal, reverting to the rank of private and transferring to the 2nd 10th Ordnance Workshop. Bourne's unit was part of the Australian Army Ordnance Corps, one of the corps that supplied the Army with the materials it needed to live, move and fight. While the Australian Army Service Corps supplied consumable items such as food and fuel, the Ordnance Corps supplied ammunition and non-consumable items, including weapons, munitions and vehicles, as well as tents, knives and forks, clothing and the spare parts to maintain vehicles and equipment. Just before midnight on the 7th of December, Japanese forces landed at Singora and Patani in Thailand and at Kota Bharu in northern Malaya. Shortly before, to their surprise, attack upon the US naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Japanese forces then quickly moved through Southeast Asia, a seemingly unstoppable force that swept all opposition in its path. Kuala Lumpur itself was taken on the 11th of January and Johor fell 3 days later. With the threat to Australia now being felt directly, forces were rushed to Singapore, the foremost British military base and economic port in Southeast Asia, and the linchpin of British defence strategy. Private Bourne embarked from Sydney on the 10th of January 1942, arriving in Singapore on the 26th of January. By the end of the month, however, Allied forces had withdrawn from Malaya across the causeway linking Malaya and Singapore. Allied forces were spread too thin to resist the Japanese when they landed on the Northwest Island on the 8th of February. Allied air cover had been almost completely destroyed in the opening days of the campaign, and the city was being bombed at will by the Japanese. By the 13th of February, the battle for Singapore was all but over. British forces surrendered 2 days later. With the fall of Singapore, 15,000 Australians became prisoners of the Japanese, and many would leave Singapore as part of workforces sent to Burma, Thailand Railway. They were also forced to take part in heavy labouring work across the Japanese Empire, road building, freight moving, removal of landmines, and in work for chemical factories. The plight of prisoners of war of the Japanese is well known. So the stories of the starvation and brutality endured by prisoners who often died as a result of their treatment, as well as from diseases such as beriberi, malaria and dysentery. William Bourne, however, would avoid the suffering that fell to so many others. He was declared missing on the 1st of March 1942. He was later presumed killed. He was 21 years old. With no known grave today, he is commemorated at the Singapore Memorial, which bears the names of over 24,000 casualties of the Commonwealth land and Air Forces who have no known grave. His name is listed on the honour roll on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifices told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private William Bourne, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere, or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.